Hey there, horror fans. I'm your host, Douglas here at Drowned Boy Productions, and you're watching the 31 Days of Trick or Treat. Thank you all for joining me for another episode of the 31 Days of Trick or Treat, where we take a look at a different Trick or Treat Studios product every single day for 31 days, starting on Halloween and ending December 1st. We are currently nearing the end of this event as we have entered the 4th week of the 31 Days of Trick or Treat, and so far this week we've taken a look at a couple of original masks that have no affiliation with any established franchise. And it's nice and refreshing to take a look at some Halloween masks that you don't have to compare against replicas, something that you can just look at and appreciate it for what it is instead of scrutinizing it for what it's not. For the first day, we took a look at the Ghoul mask by Justin Mabry. Then the second day, we took a look at the Hybrid mask by Jordu Shell. And today, we're returning to another slasher classic. Because in today's video, we'll be taking a look at the original 1984 classic Nightmare on Elm Street Freddy Krueger mask with Fedora hat. I don't have to sit here and tell you guys how awesome the original Nightmare on Elm Street is. I'm sure all of you have some sort of connection to that film. Everyone knows Freddy Krueger. And of course, this is where it all started. I'm not going to say everything that could be said about that movie, but I will say this. Without that film, and without meeting Robert Englund, I would not be here doing what I am today. I don't want to dive too deep into that here, but if any of you want to see a video on that, maybe I'll do that in the future. But essentially, the man of our nightmares helped me achieve my dream. I know I have a ton of Scream and Ghostface stuff in here, but of course I love Freddy, and A Nightmare on Elm Street is a Wes Craven classic. I've had masks of many other slashers here in the collection over the years, but one I've never really tried to collect is Freddy. There's a lot of latex masks and even a few vinyl masks out there of Freddy, and a lot of them look great, but of course it usually feels like it kind of takes silicone to do it justice. That is if you're looking for something to wear. If you're looking for something to display, that's an entirely different subject. The only Freddy mask I have in my collection currently is a silicone Freddy back there that was gifted to me, and I don't even have a hat for it. So I decided I had to grab this one with the hat. But let's go ahead and take the hat off and take a look at the mask itself, the star of the show. As I'm sure many of you know, the original Freddy Krueger makeup was applied directly to actor Robert Englund's face, and that particular makeup utilized a lot more of Robert's features than many of the other makeups did. And another fun fact that I'm sure many of you know, the original Freddy Krueger makeup was inspired by a pizza, and the way that the cheese was being moved around on said pizza. So, here's old Pizza Face. But enough about the history, let's talk about this mask in particular. In terms of latex masks of Freddy, I think this is one of the best. The only thing that really throws me off on this mask in particular are the lips. The way that the lips look pursed, and really, I feel like they would look more closed if it wasn't for the way that the lips were cut. It seems like the way that they kind of folded in the lips to cut the mouth breathing slit kind of caused it to look pursed and like really odd. I'm sure if it was more of just a straight slit instead of that much of the lip removed, it would look a lot better, but it may also be more difficult to breathe. But for display purposes, that does look a little off. But if you're crafty and you want to use this for costume purposes, you could carefully trim the lips off and use a little bit of latex and cotton to kind of graft that onto your personal lips, and that would make it a little bit easier to breathe and you'd be able to talk, maybe pull the effect off a little bit better. But most Freddy Krueger masks have him sculpted with like the nasty gnarly teeth baring, it looks like he's smiling, whatever the situation may be. And oftentimes those look pretty bad. Sometimes it can look really cool, but often not too great. I'm a little bit on the fence about how I feel about the completely like closed mouth look, but it's not bad, and I'm sure like bad teeth would look a lot worse than this. But for display purposes, it's a little bit on the fence about it, but overall, I wonder if this mask was actually sculpted on Robert Englund's life cast. I know there are many of them floating around out there, so I would presume that he probably did. It looks very close, but the lips are the only thing that throw me off. But other than that, the way that he sculpted the rest of the makeup on the full head looks great. It looks pretty damn close to the original. I haven't sat down and put this side by side to the makeup and scrutinized it heavily, but as far as looking at the way he looked in that film, it's a great job of portraying that. The only place that it's lacking other than the lips is the paint. It's not terrible, but of course something that's as heavily detailed and as textured as a burn victim's skin is very difficult to do on a budget. there are pretty much no mass-produced masks I can think of that have effectively pulled that off, including very, very high-end produced masks like that Bray Wyatt mask. So for what they've done here, it's not bad. If you want to take a little bit of latex and paint and touch it up yourself, you easily could, and obviously you can improve this very, very easily at home. I wouldn't even think you would need an airbrush. But if you do have an airbrush, you could certainly make it look a lot better. He looks all scabby and oozy, and all these fleshy bits do have gloss on them, so he really, really looks nice and fleshy. And the one ear over here looks more burnt in the film, and they did capture that pretty well in person. It's more gray than black, but it looks burnt, but not like just completely charred. Overall, I would say the sculpt looks great on this thing. It's not a bad mask. Let's talk about the hat. Freddy's fedora here is pretty basic, at least in the way that it's constructed, like a fedora. There's nothing too special to note about it. It's a costume fedora. It's not terrible quality. It's a little bit nicer than pretty much anything you've seen on the market previously, at least as far as I recall seeing in stores. But not a whole lot to note. I think the one in the picture looked a little bit more weathered and tattered, but this one looks pretty much completely brand new. I think there was like one spot that had a stain on it up here, but other than that, it looks like a brand new fedora. So I guess if you're looking for a nice fancy fedora, milady, you can grab one yourself. But other than that, it's a great Freddy fedora. They fit the masks perfectly. At first, whenever I ordered it, I wondered if they were going to glue it on or stitch it on like they did with the Papa miters. But nope, of course, it's just a mask with a hat. And like I said, it does fit him pretty well. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the Trick or Treat Studios website, because there's really not too much to say about this piece. Alright, here we go. Sculpted by Russ Lukic, Trick or Treat Studios and Warner Bros. Pictures are proud to present the officially licensed A Nightmare on Elm Street Deluxe Freddy Krueger Mask with Fedora Hat. Based on hundreds of screen and behind-the-scenes photographs, this is the ultimate Freddy Krueger mask from Wes Craven's original classic A Nightmare on Elm Street. Every detail of Freddy, as played by the incredible Robert Englund, is present in this mask. In addition to this incredible mask, this version of the mask comes with a beautiful replica of the Freddy fedora worn by Freddy Krueger in A Nightmare on Elm Street. So get yourself the official Nightmare on Elm Street Deluxe Freddy Krueger mask with fedora hat and show everyone who the King of Nightmares is this Halloween. And as for the price for the mask and hat combo, it is $90. And if you want just the mask by itself, it is $60. If you want to pick one of these up yourself, you can get it directly from Trick or Treat Studios or one of the plethora of retailers that they work with. So yeah, the mask by itself doesn't look bad. A nice bald Freddy is always cool. But personally, I think this one looks a little bit cooler with the hat. He just felt a little bit more mysterious and less monstrous when you were seeing that silhouette of Freddy with the hat. It seemed to mostly obscure the makeup, and that made it a little bit creepier. Obviously, the less you see, it's a little bit creepier. My final thoughts on the mask are this. The paints could use a little personal touch-up, and the lips are a little bit off-putting, but other than that, this thing looks fantastic. For the price, I think it is great, especially with the hat. But it all comes down to your personal preference. If it's something you intend to wear, if it's something you intend to display. But a latex Freddy Krueger is pretty hard to make look great, and they did a pretty damn good job with the whole lineup. And with that being said, there's nothing left to do but give you guys some nice close-ups. I love you all. Thank you for watching. Sweet dreams, and I'll see you next time.